Owatonna High School senior Harrison Kuhn, and Harrison is involved in the robotics team here at the high school. How long have you been involved on one of the aspects of this team?
Well, I've been involved with robotics for 4 years now, so my entire high school career, all the way from freshman year to now senior year. I originally started with some programming aspects, but now I have gotten to work with our sponsors, and especially you, Roy, and all of the people that help coordinate the team as far as promotions in the community, contacting our sponsors and thanking them afterwards, and also working on various submitted awards as well. So there's a very prestigious award in our competition called the Chairman's Award. So we have to prepare a video for that. We prepare essays as well. So I've been kind of working on that all the way up through the program.
And is that something that's awarded each year at a certain competition, or is that an internal Owatonna thing, the Chairman's Award you mentioned?
The first Chairman's Award is actually international.
Okay.
And at every competition, teams can compete. And what it is a presentation in front of a panel of judges. And so we basically explain to these judges what impacts we've made in our community in terms of community service and just changing of the environment. Like this year, our motto is we've really embraced STEM in our community. So since our inception a couple years ago, the entire STEM program has been sort of implemented, and now with the OMS going STEM, and a lot of the elementary schools are going to be going STEM here in the next couple of years as well. So that's one of the things we presented on. But the award is given out to one team at each regional competition. So this year we're participating in two back-to-back, so we have two opportunities to compete for Chairman's Award. Okay.
When are competitions coming up, or have you had any up until this point?
Well, right now we're at the sort of the tail end of the build period. There's 6 weeks in the middle of the, or in the beginning of the year. First gives us our challenge on the first Saturday of January. So right now we're kind of nearing the end. So competitions are arranged in different weeks. So we're taking place in week 2 and week 3, and that's from March 8th to the 10th, and that's the Duluth Northern Lights Regional. Okay. And the next week after that is in Peoria, Illinois.
Oh, wow. So a trip off to that event as well. What is this year's challenge? What is the job for the robot to do?
Well, this year's challenge is called First Power Up. And so it's actually a 8-bit theme, sort of taking inspiration from the old Super Mario games. And what we have to do is there are power cubes, which are basically milk totes. And our robot has to take those milk totes and stack them on different scales. And the team that will win a match, the Alliance, will have control over a scale. So depending on the amount of milk totes that are on either side by each team, that's how the competition is played. Okay.
From the time you get the challenge, and you mentioned, I think, that you're on the business side of it right now, you're working on the business team. So from the time you get the challenge, or maybe even before that, what are your duties and your capacity then this year with being on the business team?
Well, before the season even starts, the business team goes out and initially contacts the sponsors that we have had beforehand. Okay. And we also arrange to meet with them if they want a meeting. We present them with folders. We work on a lot of our promotional materials outside. So we prepare a brochure, an information sheet, and we sort of get the social media hype going as well earlier before the season starts. So our season starts even before the season starts. Okay. And that usually happens in late November to early December.
You mentioned that you've been on the programming part of it before. How many different jobs have you held, and what are the different teams and different jobs in order to make this whole thing come together?
Yeah, so each student has a specialization. I started out in programming because I thought coding was really cool, but then I realized that it wasn't really for me, so I transitioned. But there are 4 different individual teams that have different responsibilities. The first team is going to be build, and what they do is they assemble out on the mechanical aspects of our robot. They work on our drivetrain, they work on the implements used to play the game, they work on cutting metal and all that. There's also programming, which I mentioned before, and they write the code that all the mechanical implements use to function and be controlled. And then the other team is electrical, and they work with a power distribution panel and motor controllers and all sorts of other electronic pieces to connect everything to make sure that the brain can communicate. And then again, the last team is the business and public relations side of things.
Wow. What got you interested in being on any of these teams? What was your interest? How did that start?
Well, it started because actually my cousin, who was a senior my freshman year, was in robotics. And so I got interested in it because she was in it. And it kind of just went after that. I mean, I stayed with the program and saw it develop through the coming years, throughout my entire high school career.
Do you know offhand about how many total students are on this year's team?
We have a little bit more than 30 students on this year's team.
Right.
There have been more in years past, but the number does fluctuate as, of course, seniors graduate, and that's how it is with any sport, really.
Sure.
But we're anticipating more students to come through in the next coming years because the junior high has actually, or excuse me, the OMS has implemented FTC. And First Tech Challenge is the feeder program for this. And we're actually working on developing other feeder programs, like First Lego League in all of our elementary schools as well. So students will be coming more through the program then.
Very cool. And this is a sport and activity that is very widespread. A lot of schools have it, right, across the state and even in some other states as well? Yeah,
I mean, Minnesota, actually, believe it or not, there's a statistic that we always like to say, there are more robotics teams than there are hockey teams. And actually, robotics is an MSHSL endorsed sport now, too.
Yes, it is.
So there are state competitions, which we've been invited to, I think, 4 times now out of our entire existence. That's we've made it to state that many times, which, if you think about it, and that's kind of significant, and we're quite proud of that. But in our area, there's teams from Byron, Minnesota, Rochester, Mankato. They're all over the place.
And Blooming Prairie too.
Blooming Prairie, yes, that's right. And so we've actually worked with a couple of those teams to sort of implement them and get them inspired for robotics, and we try to help them start teams as well. And that's one of the missions of FIRST, is to spread the program.
At the competitions, Harrison, is it still a matter of alliances and you actually work with other teams to perform the duties? You're not just one against everybody else, you actually cooperate with 2 other teams?
Right, yeah, that's a common misconception with robotics, is that it's 1v1 and it's battle bots. And first, they like to say, oh, well, it's actually cooperation. You're cooperating and you're competing at the same time. Okay. So in each match, you're paired with 2 other robots to complete this task together, and that's an alliance. So that's how the competitions work.
Okay. And then where do you see this helping you? You mentioned you're a senior. Are there certain things that you've learned doing this that have inspired where you may want to go to study college, or what you might want to do as a career?
Well, actually, believe it or not, as much as I'm involved with public relations, I'm also looking into doing science as well. So, I mean, a lot of aspects of this team can be, a lot of the things you'll learn here throughout your time can be taken elsewhere. So my public relations can be useful when I'm doing science. I'm looking into taking a biochemistry track with genetics involved in that too. So yeah, I love working with people, and working with people on a team is definitely sort of a skill that's really useful in a collaborative environment that a lot of employers and colleges are looking for.
All right. Anything else you want to mention, Harrison, that I didn't ask you about that you wanted to be sure to bring up?
Well, we want everybody listening on KRFO to check out our website and potentially visit us on social media as well. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, and we're on Instagram. So if you want to stay up to date with what we're doing, we'd love to have you check out our platforms, and we'll be continuing to tweet out and just send out information as competitions go along. And if you want, you can join us in Duluth March 8th through the 10th for the Northern Lights Regional.
And the website is?
And the website for that regional, you can go to.
Or how about your website?
Well, our website is quite long.
Probably just easy to do a search for Owatonna Robotics team, I suppose, right?
Yep, Owatonna Robotics team 4624. That's our team number.
Okay. And do you guys still go with the Rebel Alliance theme? Is that continuing on?
Yep, the Star Wars theme has been around since our implementation, and we're also known as Rebel Alliance.
Absolutely. All right, Harrison, great to talk to you. Success to you guys up in Duluth and in Peoria, Illinois, and getting back to state again this season with robotics. Good luck.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Roy.